Hey folks, in today's video we're going to take a close-up at a Mac Pro. This is a rack version. It's the first one we've ever had in the shop. I don't think I've ever seen a video on it. These seem to be a little more rare, and so I thought I'd do some close-up views to give you an idea of what it's actually like in person. And before I do that, I'll just hop over here to the monitor to show you the specs. Obviously these are all configurable and custom, but you can see this one here, it's of course the 2019 model when it came out. It's got the 3.5 gigahertz 8-core Xeon W, the more common one. This one's been upgraded though, you can see there, to 80 gigs of RAM. So that's pretty hefty amount of RAM. Not sure if that was done by Apple. I'm guessing probably aftermarket because that 80 sounds like a number that I don't think was part of Apple's options originally. Then you do see it's got the graphics card, the Radeon Pro W5700X with 16 gigs of RAM, of VRAM. And then we'll hop over here to storage. You can see it's got a 256 gigabyte SSD, so pretty common there. And you can get an idea of which PCI slots are open. I'll show you the inside here in just a minute. And you can see the RAM there. So basically they've maxed out except for the 2nd and 11th slot, and basically just put 8 gig sticks in all those different ones there. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I think that's probably an aftermarket upgrade that was completed on this particular unit. So yeah, those are the basic specs, but let's go ahead and shut it down, and then let's hop over to the unit itself and we'll open it up and show you a little bit more on those details there. So size wise, I don't know that this is going to come through in the video real well, but the overall size of the unit itself feels just a little bit smaller than the full desktop version. So I think they made the case just a little bit more compact overall. That's what it looks like based on what I'm seeing here in front of me. But let's go ahead and get it unplugged here. You can see in the back, you've got the nice thick heavy gauge power cable that comes just like the regular desktop version of the Mac Pro. It's super thick, really nice braided outer jacket on it, so it really feels high quality. So that's really nice. Go ahead and get that unplugged and we'll open it up, but first I'll just show you what the ports look like on the back here. It's a little bit different design compared to the desktop version here on the back with the grill, the way the holes are cut, just a little bit different. And then you can see kind of starting at the bottom here, we'll call this the bottom on the far left side, you've got your power supply and Ethernet in there, and then you've got your PCI slots. So the graphics card, of course, is by default installed on the bottom one there, you can see. And you know, no surprises there. This looks very much, I'd say it's probably identical to the one in the desktop versions, but you've got your HDMI port and then your USB-C ports as well. And let me actually go in a little bit closer for you so you can see that all a little bit better. And then of course this is all part of the graphics card for ventilation, kind of got that honeycomb look or pattern to it. And then these are going to be all your open slots on the PCI lanes there. All right, then up top here we've got a USB expansion right here, and that, I bet you that's aftermarket too. I just noticed that. So this was probably added to give some more of the old school USB ports. That's kind of nice actually, you know, because without these four, you'd only have these two right here plus the USB-C up top there. So that's kind of a nice little upgrade that someone did aftermarket. And then tucked up in here is the headphone jack there for audio in out. All right, you do have a little green or an LED by the power supply. I don't think I pointed out that before, but you can see it is trimmed out just a little bit differently on the back side of the rack mount, okay? All right, let's take a quick look at the sides and then we'll open it up and look inside. So along the side, we're looking at, if you're facing it, we're looking at the left side now, just to be oriented. But you've got a release here for the top panel. We'll show that next. And then you've got these screws, which I assume are going through the outer casing into the chassis, into some of the supports and frame members inside. But then notice these guys right here, and I'll come a little bit closer, zoom in so you can get a better view. But basically these are what the drawer slides hang on right here. So you've got 1, 2, 3 of these. They're like little pegs basically that stick out, oh, maybe a 1/16 of an inch if even. And that's what actually connects onto the drawer slides. And we do have those as well. So I'll show you what they look like here. Both of these are gonna basically, if you can see these little holes, it's got like a little slotted insert. They're gonna lock on to these little pegs that you're seeing. So that's kind of nice that they made it toolless. You don't have to have any special tools to install these drawer slides. And then that's just the part that rests on the actual unit itself. Surprisingly, you know, I looked at these first and thought, man, they look kind of flimsy. You know how light they are, but you know, they get their strength and rigidity by being mounted on the actual Mac Pro. So I'm sure they've been tested. But then look at these nice drawer slides, really heavy duty, really beefy. You know, clearly they made these to support the weight of the Mac Pro, because this is pretty heavy, pretty hefty unit. But this just really, really nice and beefy. It's got all the things to mount to your rack, the little pegs and everything, and then the little quick release or little prongs on the back there. So really nice slides. I'm not sure if these come with the units or if this had to be ordered separately. We're secondhand owners here on this particular item, but this is what came with ours, so I'm showing you them. They don't have, from what I can tell, any Apple logo on them actually. Just looking on the drawers slides on both sides. Yeah, I don't actually see any Apple logo, so I'm not sure if these are made by Apple or if they're aftermarket or what the story is on that. All right, let's hop over here to the front and show you a little bit more. Notice these little latches right here. So I believe this is gonna be kind of a way for it to lock onto the rack mount once you get it mounted. And I'm not sure if this interfaces with the drawer slides or with your rack actually, but you can see on the front this little spring-loaded lock button. All it's doing is moving those little prongs up and down. You've got the same thing on the opposite side. All right, looking at it from the front here, you can see the front has that similar design, that cheese grater design that everybody calls it. So nothing too different there. However, you've got these pull bars on the front, kind of like drawer pulls, instead of being on top of the unit like they are on the desktop model. So a little bit different there, but Apple, you know, nicely incorporated that same design language here on the rack mount version, making it look, you know, like it's part of the family, obviously. All right, and then of course you got that unlock button on that side as well. You know, when I first looked at this, it almost gave me the impression with this trim. This is like a plastic, I think, trim that looks very familiar from the desktop version. And when I looked at it first, I thought, oh, well, maybe this kind of pulls out, you know, just like the desktop version. But as far as I can tell, this is all fixed. This whole front panel on the rack, all this, as far as I know, is fixed to the unit. There's probably a way to remove it inside with tools. But that is just kind of a little bit misleading here with this trim piece. This all is together. Then as far as other things on the front, you've got two USB-C ports down here. And then of course you've got your power button with an LED. So this is very different than the desktop version. It's kind of an elongated, more of a rounded rectangle style button as opposed to a round circular one that you get on the desktop version. All right, the right side is going to be the same as the left, so I won't show you that. Up on top, you do have an Apple logo with that kind of glossy finish on it. No surprise there. But let's take a look at how you're going to open this unit up, because it is a lot different than the desktop version that kind of lifts off all the way up on top. But you've got basically on the back corner here, on either side, a little spring-loaded release lever. Same thing on this side. And I'm going to set the camera down for just a second because it is basically a two-hand job. But you're basically going to squeeze that in on both sides. I'm doing the same thing over here. And then it's going to lift up. So hopefully you can see that in the video. This whole thing lifts up and it kind of hinges on the front. So you can kind of see how that works there. So I'll pull that off so we can get a better look at it. And then let me flip it this orientation. All right, so you can see here what it looks like. A little bit different looking. You know, we're looking at it from the opposite side, if that makes sense, compared to the desktop version. You know, if we're looking at this on the desktop version, everything would be kind of flipped and mirrored. So it looks a little different when you're looking at it for the first time. But notice how down here you've got your graphics card, like we talked about before on the back there. And then you can see inside here the other PCI Express slots. And then, you know, I don't know if this is aftermarket, that USB, those extra 4 ports or not. It's really hard to tell. So I'm not sure, maybe that was installed by Apple, but that is a card that's been installed here in this unit at least. But just notice how clean it is, the circuit board. I mean, they got everything all blacked out. Just looks really clean. All the, you know, on the chipsets, if you look down here and all the different pieces, how clean and polished it looks. Really, really sharp. And then you've got similar screws here to add onto your bays there. It's kind of a thumb screw where you can loosen it by hand. You can use a screwdriver if you want, but that's really nice the way they designed that and laid it out. But very simple overall. And you've got your processor there, giant heat sink on top of it, and then of course there's a fan directly on the other side. And these fans look a little bit different too, the whole layout compared to the desktop version as well. And it seems to me, we did another video, and I'll put a card up for that on the actual desktop version, so you can get a kind of a back-to-back comparison on them if you want. So I'll put a card up for that. But it seems to me there was something else going on here with the fans, maybe some kind of plastic trim or something that kind of was directing the airflow more specifically. So that's a little bit different here, I believe, on the front. I could be wrong, but that's one thing that I'm noticing. Otherwise, the fans themselves, I'll give you some close-up views of what they look like. There we go. Our focus is working now. All right, so you got 3 of those giant big fans in there. And otherwise, there's not a whole lot going on here. You can see in the front there a closer look at that cheese grater design, and notice how there's this little mesh kind of a grid for dust and whatnot, foreign objects from getting in here, and they're pretty big, the holes actually. I'm kind of surprised. So it's probably not going to be catching dust so much as more like a pen or a kid sticking their finger through those holes, because they are pretty good size holes. And so that's on the front there. It looks like it's just got some screws holding it on. Yeah, just a few screws on the top and bottom. And then you can look in there and see there's a couple wires, very clean looking, running for the power button and a couple other things down there. But otherwise it's very clean and simple, not a whole lot to report on. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to show you. I'm going to put the cover back on and show you something kind of interesting on the other side that this unit has, is the rack mount version. So we're going to put it back on. It's the same as pulling it off. You're going to start here on the front, kind of lock it in and just let it kind of hinge down and lock on together there, so pretty straightforward. All right, well, let me flip it over here and show you this panel on what we're going to call the bottom. It's kind of like the bottom of the unit. So notice how this got this little panel here. It's got 2 little push buttons. It almost feels like there's a magnet in there that's pulling that back down. Yeah, I think it's a magnet as opposed to a spring behind that button. I could be wrong. But let me just show you here. It's kind of, again, a two-handed operation. So let me see if I can position this to get all this so you can get an idea of what it looks like. There we go. So you're just going to push down on both of these, and then you just lift up on here. And you can see it kind of releases. It feels like maybe there's a spring in there and perhaps a magnet, the more I think about it. And that's going to give you access to the other side here. So that's kind of interesting. You can see how they've got some almost like airflow channels here. See if I can get you a better focus on that. Yeah, it's just a little bit dark in there, so it's hard to see. But there's almost like some different airflow channels in here. And it looks like there's something in there. I can't quite tell what's in there. If that's maybe that's some of your SSD and some other parts of the motherboard. Or no, I'm sorry, that's your memory chips. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, so you got your memory chips up here. So 1 through 12, yeah, okay. So that's what we've got going on here. So let's see, if we wanted to gain access, there we go. All right, so these things lift off. Well, this one's not wanting to come off here. Let's see, what am I held up on? There we go. All right, so that design was a little confusing getting that cover off, but Yeah, you can see that little lever down there releases down there, and that's going to be where it hides your memory banks. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So you can see those same two memory banks here. I think it was 11 and 2 that were open before. So it's basically got these little covers on there to have the airflow kind of flow through. And then I'm just noticing here on the box label, they're giving you an indication of, I guess, what speed you're going to get based on how you install them on your memory. So you just have to follow that pattern. So that's nice that they put it right there where you're going to be looking at it anyway. Otherwise, you've just got, you can tell, some airflow going right here, probably to the back side of where the processor is. And I'm guessing the SSD is somewhere tucked in there as well, is my guess. All right, so let's see if we can get this back on here. Okay, so it's a little bit easier getting back on than off. I think I was just going at the wrong angle. All right, so that's pretty neat how they give you access to that on this back side. Really like that it's toolless. You don't need any special tools. It just kind of works, and it just clips back into place there. Pretty neat. So folks, I think that's about all I can show you here on this Mac Pro, this rack mount version from 2019. But I hope these close-up views give you a better idea of some of the features that you're going to get on the rack mount version versus the desktop version. Again, we'll put a link in the description below to the other video that we did on the desktop version if you want to compare back to back what it looks like inside and outside. But we appreciate you watching this video. For those who don't know, JBrokers is a risk-free secondhand marketplace, and we buy and sell all sorts of gently used items like this Mac Pro here. So if you're looking to sell something, maybe you've got an iPhone or something else, then definitely check us out online, because we'll get you a guaranteed cash offer. All right, two things that our customers love about JBrokers. First off, we always pay the agreed upon amount for the agreed upon item. There's no bait and switch gimmicks ever. And secondly, we always send payments out on the next business day, rain or shine. So definitely check us out at jaybrokers.com. That's JAYbrokers.com. You'll find almost 3,000 products in our database where you can get an instant offer. Like if you got an iPhone, iPad, something that's more common out of the box. However, if you've got something more custom, like this Mac Pro here, then you can request a personalized offer, and we'll get back to you usually the same business day with a cash offer. No obligation, so definitely check us out at jaybrokers.com. Thanks for watching.